Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 16, and we have a Christmas Day special slate. 3 games, 6 teams. Just like the Saturday special last week in week 15, just like the Thanksgiving Day slate, it's a shorter slate. You're going to have to digest a higher allocation of percentage owned in tournaments if you want to take things down. It is totally okay to load up on one game if you want to. You're going to break some of the rules that we normally set for full slate action because this is a small slate, small play. You have to be able to do things a little bit differently, and it never hurts to go all in on one game, especially if that game scores like 60 plus points, because you're going to want to have as much action in that one as you can. So thank you guys for being here. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever it is that you celebrate. I hope that you have the best holidays possible. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League locks on Saturday morning. So if you're watching this video before Saturday, make sure that you reserve your seat in the Listener League because it has 3,000 seats. If we do not fill it, it is going to get smaller moving forward. It's $10. It is zero rake, the best tournament that exists on DraftKings. Go to smizzle.tv/links. You'll find the link to that and absolutely everything else. Make sure you fill the Listener League. I will shout out the top 10 finishers on the recap video on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel. That link is also in smizzle.tv/links. If you wanted to check that out, every single week, every Monday, we go over what we did the previous week. Let's take a look at this slate. Here we got 3 games. I'm going to go quickly game by game to kind of break this down. Green Bay against Miami, the first game on the slate. Tua Tagovailoa was fantastic early in the season, but has been a little bit more pedestrian of late. 3 straight road games, couple of defenses that give people problems, 1 island game where he did not perform very well at all in that matchup against Herbert. But San Francisco, in Los Angeles, at Buffalo, finally he gets to come back home. Still having a fantastic year, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, averaging 19.6, and viable and capable of blowing up in any single situation. Against Buffalo was a weather game. I thought he had a pretty good game that night. Aaron Rodgers on the other side, cocky as ever. You know, he is who he is. But like from a fantasy perspective, it's been very tough for him to have ceiling optimal type games because of the pass catching crew that they have in Green Bay right now. Like Christian Watson had a really good run where he scored like 1 million touchdowns in 4 straight games. And then this is the problem. You jump on board because like, oh yeah, well, all he does is score touchdowns. So when you take those away, all of a sudden he's not doing all that much. 6 targets, like it's nice, but like, do we want to pay $6,000 for 6 targets? Now, if he has like a 3 touchdown game, sure, but 8 targets, 6, 6, 7, 6, 100 yards in 2 games, under 50 yards in 3 of the last 5 games. Very touchdown dependent wide receiver. However, he does have a very efficient quarterback throwing him the football. Allen Lazard, like nobody is spectacular. Absolutely none of the pass catchers on this team are spectacular at all. Like at all. Romeo Doubs thrown back into the mix, got 5 targets last week. That kind of eats away at Lazard and Watson. Randall Cobb still kind of a thing who gets end zone targets at this point. There's just not a lot to be sustained. AJ Dillon, I don't know. They said he cleared concussion protocol, so like I guess he's fine to go. Scored 2 touchdowns early, has 4 touchdowns the last couple of games. Not a lot of upside here outside of the touchdowns, but he has gotten solid usage. But like him and Aaron Jones just kind of end up cannibalizing one another. Aaron Jones is my preferred guy to target at 7,500, though. It's a little more restrictive than 5,700 for AJ Dillon, so I understand his appeal on this shorter slate. Raheem Mostert is a very, very good running back. Again, remember this offseason when we were talking about, you know what, Raheem Mostert's available in the 18th round and like he's free and you should probably be drafting him as your RB5, your RB6. And the red team was like, he always gets hurt. He's not going to be useful. He'll never be a good player. He's not better in best ball. He is, though, and he's been just fine. Jeff Wilson Jr. may be coming back this week. Last week without him against the Bills, who are really suddenly terrible at defending the run. A similar situation with Green Bay. A lot of yards allowed before first contact for Green Bay. A lot of yards allowed after first contact for Green Bay. They do not tackle exceptionally well against opposing running backs. And that off guard, off tackle play that they continually run to the right side, Miami, the Dolphins do, was extremely fruitful last week, including a 67-yard run. If Jeff Wilson is back, we will we'll know by the time Sunday there. He was close to playing Saturday. He's day-to-day moving forward. But then again, aren't we all? They did spell him a little bit with Savon Ahmed, who got 6 touches in that game, did score a touchdown. But if Wilson's not there, it's 100% the Mostert show. We've seen a couple of games pre-injury with Jeff Wilson Jr. where he took over the main job. I don't know that it's defined if both are healthy. It's very much a hot hand situation in Miami. I'm operating right now until Jeff Wilson Jr. gets cleared that he is essentially the main guy. Tyreek Hill, you don't need me to tell you really about him. He's amazing. He's one of the top 2-3 wide receivers in the league in terms of yards. Has really picked up the pace in terms of touchdowns, which is something that we thought most definitely was going to happen after he had like 1-2 touchdown game and nothing else, because you can't get this many targets, this many yards, be as much of an outlier as he is down the field, and not score touchdowns. They have increased his red zone usage and end zone usage over the last 6-7 weeks, and he has responded with 5 touchdowns over the last 6 games, averaging 23.6 on the year. Jalen Waddle, love the talent right now versus the way he's being deployed. And I don't know how much of this is due to injury, protection of the player, of the asset, or whatever. But his snaps have been fine, but his targets have gone down as we've seen Trent Sherfeld take on a little bit of an expanded role in the offense. We've seen River Craycraft play a little bit. Ced Wilson's getting 2 targets a game the last 2 games. Ideally, they go back to the way that they were running offense the first 4 weeks of the season, when essentially Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill were getting 60+% of the target market share, and he was very viable. But at 7,200, it's going to be tough to jam him in. I'll talk about this game because there's only 3 games on the slate, and I guess people want me to talk about it, but I really don't want to. Russ Wilson kind of sucks. He's just bad now. This is just who he is. He did have a good game against Kansas City, but a lot of quarterbacks have good games against Kansas City. Baker Mayfield, whatever. He's there now. I don't know what to say about this. This is an awful game. This is the 5-hour span after the first game. So you wake up, it's Christmas morning. If you do celebrate, you wake up, you open presents with your kids, then you kind of sit down while they're playing and you kind of quietly flip on Green Bay, Miami, and you watch that game. And then you spend a whole lot of time with your family from 1:30 until 5:20. This is when you should be spending time with your family, because who the hell are we playing from this game? Latavius Murray, he's been fine. He's 5,600. I'm okay with that. We go with him. Cam Akers is getting run, but has not been very good at all. I don't think that he has very much of a ceiling. The total in this game is 35. At least it's good weather. We have that. Marlon Mack has vultured touchdowns. I don't think this is sustainable at all. People are going to play Marlon Mack because of the 16 points he's averaged the last 2 weeks at 4,600. And he's not going to keep scoring 50-yard touchdowns, guys. He's not going to continue to vulture touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, in the absence of Cortland Sutton, has performed quite well. Still under 6,000. I think he's fine, but they're hoping that he can play on Sunday, which now would take a low volume pass game offense with very little touchdown expectation and kill that. The Rams wide receivers are useless because there's no quarterbacks at all. Tutu Atwell at least has downfield ability. At tight end, Tyler Higbee is fine, but he's expensive at 4,100. So is Dulcich, who got 2 targets last week, coming off of back-to-back 8-target games. They went to Eric Tomlinson instead. They threw balls to this guy. Just play the defense. Fine? Just do it there. Fine. There. I'm going to play the Rams defense. I'm just going to plug them in. We're going to play the Rams defense. Tampa Bay and Arizona, this game is a little bit interesting for a couple of reasons. One, Arizona has been really, really bad at stopping a lot of different things. Tom Brady has dropped back a ton and is completing a high percentage of his passes with multiple touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 games. We have a possibility that we can get down to 6,100 here with Tom Brady and utilize him to double stack through against an Arizona defense that has struggled to stop so very many different things that I'm totally okay with going with Tom Brady in this spot because it is restrictive to double stack Miami at this point. You could double stack them because you can break rules, but it's very difficult to double stack them with Tua being 7K, Waddle being 7,200, and Tyreek being 9,000. I want to have exposure to that game. I think that we can get exposure to that game should we want it. I'll show you how we're going to get there. On the other side, Trace McSorley is going to start. which kind of kills everything. It kills everything for Arizona. Like, James Conner is going to get his usage. So, like, that's a thing. Volume, a lot of it at 7,000. If they can move the ball, great. But Tampa Bay's defensive line is extremely strong. 3,300 for that defense. Probably going to be the highest played defense on the slate, considering who is quarterbacking on the other side. But I definitely think that both the Broncos and the Rams are extremely viable. The Rams at the cheapest price among the three. At wide receiver, love DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sure how efficient he's going to be in this spot. 1, he is going to have opposite him Ramsey. 2, he's going to have Trace McSorley feeding him the football. He did have 11 targets against Denver, who also has Patrick Surtain Jr., who is a fantastic cornerback. But the possibility for one of these type of games, 36, 23, 30 points, 19, 18, is going to be tough for him to get to with the, I'm going to assume, inefficiency out of McSorley, and paying up to 7,500 for him over somebody like Waddle, who has, I would say, a much better probability of reaching a ceiling game than him. And also Chris Godwin, who has seen as much volume as has Hopkins, but has more of a possibility of a 20-plus point DraftKings day at 600 less in salary. Mike Evans has yet to explode, right? We have not seen a game since week 4 against Kansas City. And we've had opportunities. It's not like we haven't had opportunities. We've had downfield throws against multiple teams, against Cleveland, against Cincinnati. We've had touchdowns called back. We've had major opportunities. And it seems like every time that they miss that downfield throw to Mike Evans, they just shrink. Tampa Bay. They had a monster collapse against Cincinnati last week with 22 straight drives with turnovers. Again, don't fact check me. I know I'm close on this one, though. But a 20-yard plus reception in basically every game this year except one. He is still the same downfield threat. They just haven't been on the same page. The NFL touchdown leader the previous 3 seasons at wide receiver only has 3 this year, but not for lack of trying. I think that both him and Godwin are in play this week. And if you wanted to take a chance on one of the tight ends on the other side, with like Cade Otton, ran some routes. He definitely looks like the better, more athletic, pops more on film, and is more expensive. But like, Arizona is the best matchup that we can get, allowing the most receptions, yards, and touchdowns to opposing tight ends. If you think that Cam Brate's going to wander into the zone this week, or Otton's going to wander into the zone this week because they're just that inefficient at stopping tight ends in every team. Now, once you show weakness, it's almost like fumbling, right? Once a player gets a reputation as a fumbler, once they fumble once or twice, now those defenders are going extra hard to trying to go punch the ball out or strip the ball. They're not trying to wrap up. They're now attacking that weakness even more. So like, once you show weakness defensively in the red zone or around the end zone at tight end, that this is what we can exploit, offensive coordinators now script their red zone plays to add in the tight end as the 1 and 2 option on each play, just because they know that that is where they're going to be able to get separation if they run XYZ plays. So if you wanted to go that route, I'm more than fine with it, with either one, but just realize that like Brate and Otton are splitting snaps, and it's very hard to predict that either one is going to get like 4, 5, or 6 targets, though both have heightened touchdown expectation this week. I think that Trey McBride is the right play at tight end in this game, considering that he is the only guy running around, runs low ADOT targets. Those are ones that are going to have more opportunity to be able to complete from an inefficient quarterback against a tough defensive line that should be under duress a lot. I'm going to plug Trey McBride. I'm also going to use a Tom Brady stack in this one to allow me to get to the other plays that I want. At running back, Leonard Fournette, and I know I didn't touch on the Tampa Bay running backs in this slate. Leonard Fournette and Rachaad White are kind of splitting snaps and splitting drives, right? Like they go one drive with one, they go one drive with the other, unless the other one gets tired because it's a long extended drive. White does have very good talent in the pass game, in spite of this 2 targets that he had last week, coming off of 3 straight games of 5, 8, and 9. He has garnered a good percentage of the snap rate. He has not been the guy inside the 5-yard line, but I do think that he has talent in there as well. I think that he has bigger play upside, which is something that I want to capitalize against Arizona. While Fournette may have a little bit more upside a little bit higher floor in terms of his usage, I think that the upside play, especially on a tournament slate like this one, is to go for Rachaad White, breaking off a long run that could end in a touchdown. More chance of a 20-plus point day for White without multiple touchdowns, where Leonard Fournette requires multiple touchdowns to get there, and could correlate well with Tom Brady. At wide receiver, I am going to plug in Mike Evans in this one. I'm going to come back to that first game. Let's bring all the games back up. I'm not playing anybody from I'm just going to exclude them. I don't want anything from those two teams. F that game. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill because he's amazing. Green Bay has been tough against wide receivers, but some guys are just matchup proof, and it does not matter. We've seen that with JJ. We've seen that with Tyreek Hill. We've shown that with Travis Kelce at tight end. It just doesn't matter. DVP is a thing. Matchups are definitely a thing. But so is scheme and so is talent, and I want as much of an outlier who can break a slate as I possibly can get. On Green Bay, let me get Cobb because he provides me a little bit of volume at a very cheap price at $4,200. I'm going to go with Raheem Mostert at $5,900. If you wanted to go somewhere else, that is just fine as well. As we talked about, in that price range, you still have AJ Dillon at $5,700. I personally think that they are going to score an awful lot of points this week as they have the highest implied team total on the slate, do the Dolphins at like 27 at this point. So I want to load up on players from that team. And the way that you can get there, kind of as I said, if you wanted to play Jalen Waddle in flex, you're going to have to get cheaper than the Rams at defense. And that would be to come down to the Dolphins against Green Bay. They don't turn the ball over all that much. The Cardinals, who are playing against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay did kind of implode a little bit, doesn't have a great offensive line, or the Packers. I'm going to stick with the Rams here. So I'm not going to get that double that I had said you could get in the passing game by going away from using Waddle and still having a well-rounded team. But I am going to be able to get Chris Godwin in that flex spot, giving me that Tampa Bay triple stack. We're bringing that back with Trey McBride. I do have pieces from that first game as well with Cobb, Tyreek Hill, and Mostert. So 2 options from the highest totaled game of the day and high volume options with touchdown upside from the later game to give me flexibility if things don't hit in that first one to swap off in the second or third game with a little bit more contrarian play. So I wish you the best of luck. I wish you the happiest of holidays. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.